Hi, this is Mrs. Davis. I'm working on AP Computer Science A, and this is Lesson 7.1, and I am on the second video. Right now we're going to start talking about the methods that go with the array list data structure. So it's kind of divided up into columns here. Here's the name of the method and what it does. And this column right here tells what it returns. What kind of, when you call the method, what kind of data does it return? Okay, so let's go over this. So the first one is the method size. So this is like if you had an array and you would do numbers.length to get the length. If you have an array list, you have, this is an array and this is numbers is an array list. You have to do dot size. And remember, it's a method, so it needs an open and close parenthesis. So you really have three things. You know, when you had a string, and so you wanted to do string.length, and that was a method for the string. And then an array has dot length that's not a method, and now an array list has dot size with a method. All right, so a lot of learning in there that you already know, a little bit of reminder of how to do those other ones. It returns an integer, just like if you called numbers.length in an array, you get an integer back that says how many elements are in the list. And so if there's 5, it returns 5. The next one we're going to look at is remove. Okay, and that's if you want to take an element out of the array list. And when you take it out, it removes it and moves everything down to the left. So it automatically makes the array smaller. So it decreases the size of the array by 1. It removes the element at the index that you specify. So you would put what index? So you would say remove 1. So it would be numbers dot remove 1. And then that would remove the second, you know how the index, that would be the second element in your array list. It would remove that. Now, the 1 is the index. Now, it returns something if you catch it. If you have, like, if you say int num equals, and then you call numbers dot remove 1, then whatever was in remove 1 goes into that variable. And that's a way sometimes you can do it where you don't lose the data. So remember that it's a little unusual. It removes the element at an index that you specify, and it does return it. Now, if you don't have anything to catch it, say this was gone and you just said numbers dot remove 1, it will just go nowhere, and it's okay. It's just going to remove 1, and you didn't need to have that stored in a variable. So you don't have to use the return. So let's put that in here. You don't have to use it, but it's there if you need it. Now remember again, I said it decreased the size by 1, and all elements are moved to the left. And so if you were talking about an index, everything would be moved to the index it was minus 1. All right, so that is remove. So we've done remove. Now let's do add. So say we want to add an element to the array. You use the add method. So this would be like numbers.add. And then you have to say what object you want to add, and it has to be an object. So, but you can say add 5, and it will auto box that to be an integer. That's what I was saying. It's almost like you don't really have to even know, except you obviously do when you set up the array list, and you have to say, I'm look back up here. All right, so remember, it has to be an object. So you could add dog1, dog2, or numbers or integers, or you could even add an array into an array list. You can have an array list of arrays. So it can get quite complicated. All right, so what happens when you add one? When you add one, it appends it to the end of the array list. So if you had an array list that was 0, 3, 7, 9, 0, 1, 2, 3 are the indexes, and you went to add 5, that means that it's just going to go find the next place that it goes to the very end, makes a new spot for it, and then puts the 5 in there. So it adds it to the end. So appends the object to the end of the array list. And now the array list size is increased by 1. And that's how you can go up and down. If you remove 5, if you remove this guy, then it goes back down to 4. So that's why the size can go up and down. All right, so that was add. Now there's a second add, so that this is an overloaded method. So I'm going to use the green here. Add is an overloaded method. That means you can send it an object and just an object, or you can send it an index and the object. And that means that you are going to insert it into a specific index. So say I'm down here and I wanted to add, you know, a 9, but I needed it to be in the second place. So what would happen is I would put 1, 9, okay? And so what would happen is it would come in here and it would create 1 right here, and it would put 9 in, and that would be 1, and everything else would go down to the right, index-wise. Okay, so if you use the overloaded add method with 2 parameters, you get, you can tell it where you want to add it. If you use 1, it just adds it to the end. Okay, so adds the object and the position index, and it probably should say in here, right? It increases the size by 1, so it automatically makes it go up by 1. All elements are moved to the right, so they now have index plus 1 automatically. Now, this add doesn't return anything. Okay, so just remember, if you add, it doesn't take away or replace and something pop in. Only the remove does. All right, so that was add. So we've got remove, add, and size. And now we're going to hit this last one, or we have 2 more, I guess. Get. And this is like a getter. I want the element in array list index 3. So if I wanted that, I would say numbers dot get 3, and it will go and return a 7. So it returns, now that 7 is an object 7. Remember, it's a capital I. Yeah. So it's going to return an object 7. Now, if then you want to do something with 7, like add it, it'll automatically unbox it. But it's going to return it as an object, as an integer object. Okay? So it returns the element of the specified index. Let's add as an object. So pay attention to that. I didn't talk about what add does. Add returns a Boolean. And, you know, I'm trying to remember, because I never used that, of returning a Boolean. And I'm going to look that up real quick and tell you what that returns, because remove returns an object. I thought, you know, and I didn't think add return, because the second add, where you say where it goes, doesn't return anything. But if you just add it, I'm trying to think, is it return true if it was able to? So I'm going to go look that up after this next video, and I'll come back and tell you, because I never use it and can't remember. But since I'm teaching it, I better teach y'all. All right, so that was the get. It returns the object. And now let's go to this set. And that's like a setter. I want to replace. This is like a replace. Think of it like a replace. Because if I use set and it has 2 parameters, where Like what index do I want to replace, and here's what I want to replace it with. So if I said numbers dot set, let's see, 0, 8, okay, and that's an 8 type integer, then it would go over here and it would overwrite basically and replace the 0 index with 8. And now this, whatever was there before, okay, gets returned. And so that's another way to kind of catch it so you didn't lose what was at 0. Maybe you needed it for something else and you needed to replace it, so you could go grab it and replace it at the same time. So again, it's going to return the object that it replaced. Okay, so I'll stop the video here. I'll go look up so I can tell you about that Boolean, and then we'll go and look at some examples. Oops. Okay.